And Dan said the very first day, he said, okay, organize a PowerPoint that will be your strategic plan. I didn't know what a PowerPoint was, I didn't know what a strategic plan was, but this is how this PowerPoint evolved. And we started with 6 principles. And these were the 6 principles of really shaping a citywide agenda. And this is what we were faced with. We were, in 2002, a city of barely over 8 million people. The agency that I run is responsible for the demographics of the city and projecting population projections. And we know that New York, in 2030, will be a city not of 8 million people, but 9 million people. We're going to grow by 1 million people, and that's natural growth, births over deaths. We have also a city that's built out to its edges. Almost all the city is built upon, and you'll see some images of this. Much of New York City is single-family, 1- and 2-family homes, very different from what you might imagine. We also know that we have a very old zoning that was done in the 1960s and basically was never touched, except a little bit in Manhattan, over that period. And we have a tremendous challenge for sustainability and making a city sustainable over the long term. But probably most important was that right before the mayor was elected, we had one of the great tragedies in the entire world, which was 9/11. So the challenge was to reestablish confidence in the city of New York and get people to really have confidence in building, investing in every part of the city, and that was also our challenge. So these were the 6 principles. New York City has to always be, as now, a city of a world city of opportunity, a global city. We used to compete with Chicago or San Francisco. Now we compete with Shanghai and Singapore and Tokyo. And if we don't compete on that level, we will lose the economic development that really is the economic engine of the city. Again, a sustainable city. What does that mean? If you're an unsustainable city, you have the seeds of your own destruction. This has to be long-term sustainability so that you don't eat up the energy or pollute the air in such a way that the city becomes unlivable over the long term. So that means, in terms of development, of channeling development in the areas of the city that can grow, that have the transportation infrastructure. And we have great subways in New York City, but that's where we need development. We need housing and jobs. The city needs to grow for those new people and to create jobs, but the development needs to take place in particular locations, those with good transportation. We want to get people out of their cars and preserve land. That's very, very important. New York, city of neighborhoods. And that's perhaps the essence of New York. If you're a New Yorker, you love your neighborhood, whether it's Bayside or Bay Ridge or Riverdale. Each one of these neighborhoods has its own identity, and that's why we always have to plan from the strengths of each of those neighborhoods and not have like blanket rezonings, but respect what's strong and unique about each one of those neighborhoods, because that's what people care about the most. And you hear that as I go out with the mayor to each one of these neighborhoods. Each one of the problems are different. Each one of the physical characteristics are different. Significant sites. There are large areas of the city that have not been planned for. And in the past, the old way of doing things was wait for a developer to come with a proposal and then react to that. So we thought comprehensive planning for significant sites. And how to do that is urban design, 3-dimensional urban design master plans. And I was lucky enough to work on Battery Park City, and that's what we did. Really, the composition of buildings, how that's shaped, and really look at it from a 3-dimensional point of view, and then overlay zoning on it. But really think about these plans comprehensively for these large areas that have been unplanned for. Our waterfront. Like many cities in the world, former port cities are no longer port cities, and so recapturing the water's edge is absolutely essential to New York City. Remember, New York City is a city of 5 boroughs, and 4 of them are islands. So our waterfront is important for several reasons. For development opportunities in the right location, for respite and recreation, and also for water transportation, because it's a way to tie the 5 boroughs together. Public open space, that's my own personal passion. I worked with Holly White, who had a mantra. He said, you can measure the health of a city by the vibrancy of its streets and public spaces. In the end, that's what people really, really care about. It's what's right in front of them and how they feel about whether a street has blank walls or a lot of sidewalk cafes and shops and places to really enjoy the city. And that's what you really want to create, great places. And the bottom line is, are you creating great places or not? And that brings me to the last, but obviously a very, very important aspect of what we try to do is urban design excellence, and that's across the board, whether it's a small Vest Pocket Park or low-income housing or an iconic building. Always design excellence is absolutely a key. So I'm going to take you on kind of a whirlwind tour of what we've been trying to do, and it will be fast, but at least you get a spectrum of how we're trying to shape the entire city in a very short 8 years. So this is just all of these, this is New York City, all of the 5 boroughs. All of these areas that are colored are completed rezonings. I don't want to talk about past administrations, but a dozen rezonings maybe. We have already gotten passed by the City Council, and it's very important that all of these rezonings go through a whole public review process, building consensus with the community. I take it to the Planning Commission, and then it must go to the City Council. And if the City Council, the elected officials, don't vote for it, it doesn't happen. We have completed and had adopted 79 rezonings in the city of New York. Over 1/6 of the city has been rezoned under Mike Bloomberg.